It's Wednesday, so you know we got a really great show with my little brother, Rohan Chakravarthi. We're going to be talking about the 49ers, the joint practice with the Vikings, preseason game one. What's Trey doing good? What Trey's doing bad? Stay tuned. I didn't even put myself in, but what is up, fam? Thank you so much for tuning in to So Real Sports. How we was about to have it just Rohan Chakravarthi because he is that good. But I am your host, So Real Sunil. Thank you so much for joining us. And Rohan, we haven't been together in quite some time, man. I've been traveling. You've been obviously busy covering the team. You've been doing like so many shows, bro. But how's everything going with you?
Busy and exciting. That's just how I got to put it. Busy and exciting. You know, it's crazy, definitely, because I try and get in as many shows as possible, but sometimes, you know, just too many. And then you got to take that break. You got to get back into it. And then you got to obviously keep up the written work. But I'm definitely loving my experience. How are you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. Want to shout out Mr. Fernando, always jumping in, one of my faves. Before we move on to 49er news, I know you carry yourself extremely mature. You're a tall dude. People might not know how young you actually are, but you are going into college, and you did tweet out today some big news that I was extremely proud of you for, my man. So it's not that you're too busy right now. You're like, let me just add some more work for myself as well. Talk a little bit about what you accepted, I guess, pretty recently here at as far as the school you're going to be going to.
Yeah, so a couple of days ago, I finalized, or actually really yesterday, I finalized an agreement to join SB Nation at Bucky's fifth quarter to cover Wisconsin Badgers football and basketball for SB Nation for the next year. And I mean, obviously ongoing from that. So definitely excited for that. I am going to be in person there. So, you know, I'll be able to eyewitness all of the events and give the reports like I've been doing for the 49ers over there as well. But guys, don't be mistaken. The 49ers is where I'm at. I'm not leaving 49ers web zone. That's my home, at least for the foreseeable future for sure. And so I'm staying there. Y'all content gonna keep coming. Sunil appearance is gonna keep coming for sure. But no, it's definitely something exciting for me as I get into the college realm of things and head over there for the fall.
Yeah, and SB Nation is a huge opportunity, Rohan. You know, I know you're very humble and like it's just like another day in the office for you, but what you're doing is really an inspiration. I'm much older than you, but your work ethic, your opportunities that you're getting, it couldn't happen to a better guy, man. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Before
I gotta continue, we gotta say real quick, just on with Jack just about an hour ago. He told me to say hi to you because, you know, he doesn't like to say hi to you because he actually hates you now. So he told me to say hi to you. Now, you know, it's funny because yesterday I was in the chat, and if you guys don't know, Sunil and Jack are my two least favorite content creators. So it just makes total sense that I, you know, go one show to another show with them.
Right. Hey, this is really just you punishing yourself. Wednesdays are your punishment day. Let me go work with the two guys I hate the most in the industry.
That's why I had to drop the announcement. You know, you need some happy news with the punishment.
I love it. Well, we do want to talk about 49ers, and a lot of stuff has happened. Now we've had, you know, a preseason game, Rohan. We've had joint practice day one with the Vikings that happened today. I haven't gotten a chance to really speak to you over these last few things, but what I wanted to talk about first was, unfortunately, just like every other 49er year, we are having a little bit of the injury bug hit us, right? And unfortunately, it's happening in the secondary, right? We have Jimmy Ward with a hamstring injury. Supposedly, this could keep him out actually the beginning of the season, which is, very something we really need to keep our eye on. Charvarius Ward is having, has an injury that he hasn't been on the field. Emmanuel Mosley's been dealing with the injury. He actually got back on the field today for drills. But how I guess, one of the things, Rohan, was the secondary was usually in past 49er years have been kind of the Achilles heel, I guess you could say, based off of, the position groups on the defense. They've always been kind of the weaker group. This was going to change this year, obviously, with the addition of Charvarius Ward, the resurgence of Emmanuel Mosley, and obviously some of the younger guys like Womack and those guys that are coming up. But now that we're starting to see these injuries, and unfortunately they're soft tissue injuries, which we've seen tend to linger throughout the season, how worried are you about the injuries in the secondary for the 49ers?
Yeah, when you talk about the injuries, it's something worrisome, but also it's something that you've seen every single year. You talk about Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley. Both of them have not been healthy in a full season since 2019. Mosley missed. He played in only 11 games last year. Missed, what is that? 6 games last year. Ward missed 4 games. Haven't been healthy since 2019, which means the 49ers are going to have to rely on these younger players, rely on their backups in certain games. So I think it's inevitable that these injuries are going to occur, but that they're happening this early, and especially in the way that they're happening, like Kyle Shanahan mentioned, off days, it is a little bit frustrating that they're happening already, given that this has been the Achilles heel for the 49ers for the past couple of years. 2020, that season, season could have gone completely differently had half the team not gotten injured. And then even in 2021, you see injuries being dealt with. 2019, you saw some injuries being dealt with. One of the biggest additions of this team in the Shanahan-Lynch era has consistently been injured. Obviously, he's no longer with the team. That's Steve Ford. But injuries have been big. When you talk specifically about the secondary, the reason that a lot of people are more optimistic about the 49ers is because that secondary got better this year. Charvarius Ward, obviously, being that $14 million addition. And I'm not necessarily worried about the 49ers losing games early in the season to the Chicago Bears and the Seattle Seahawks if they don't have a member or two of the elite group in the secondary. However, when you look at the landscape of things, the 49ers want to run man press coverage. They have been looking to get cornerbacks at a high level that can cover one-on-one coverage, which allows DeMeco Ryans then to get creative with the scheme and really put the best performance on the field. Last year, when the injuries occurred, specifically to Jason Verrett and then Emmanuel Mosley missing some time, the 49ers had to shy away from that at times and not really get into their best defensive scheme, and they still played well. You have the opportunity to play man press coverage. And what I said on Jack's show is it's a symbiotic relationship between the cornerbacks and the defensive line. If the defensive line gets there quick with the way that these cornerbacks can play, they might be able to lock up coverage and the defensive line gets to the quarterback. Or with what we've seen in training camp at times, if the cornerbacks can hold up coverage for a long time, the defensive line can get there. So it is a little worrisome, but the 49ers have dealt with it before.
So we have, but one injury that we haven't had to deal with in some time was Jimmy Ward. And the fact that Jimmy Ward is injured, especially with Jaquiski Tartt not there anymore, tell me a little bit about, is this an injury that could lead to sustained problems for the 49ers? Because once again, it is a hamstring injury. And we did see Debo a couple years ago come in and out of the lineup consistently with the hamstring injury. Jimmy Ward has stayed relatively healthy over the last few seasons. He did an interview with Grant last offseason where he talked about how he's really done some things to really help take care of his body in the offseason and stuff. So to see him go down with this injury that Kyle Shanahan didn't shy away to say that it is a little more serious. I mean, could even keep him out of week one. How, if he ends up being kind of hobbled throughout the season, how would that affect the 49ers?
I think it would significantly affect the 49ers if he is for a good portion. And it's not to say that the 49ers haven't necessarily dealt with it, right? The one game they did last year without Jimmy Ward that is vivid in our memory is week 9 against the Arizona Cardinals, and that secondary got diced up. And I think the talent is better at safety right now because Hufanga obviously that game, it was Hufanga and Tavon Wilson. And I think Hufanga right now is a better overall player than like what he was last year and then Tavon Wilson. So I think there is better depth. You have George Odom there as well. But Jimmy Ward, the reason that he's talented and so vital to this defense isn't because he plays safety. It's because he plays such a variety of roles. He can play in the box. He can play in the slot. He can play in such in so many different roles. He fills in well. He had 0 tackles that were missed last year, the best rate in the NFL, obviously, with 0 missed tackles. Good coverage. That's been his main part of his entire game. And that he's been durable as well. So if this lingers, I think the 49ers are going to have to adjust. Do I think this means their season is over? Of course not. I think they still have enough talent. It's just it's going to be a different adjustment without one of their key cogs for the last couple of seasons.
Our SF 49ers shouting out Rohan. Congrats on the new job with SB Nation.
Hey, that's
another
my
goat
guy.
right there. Absolutely. Here's my issue is it's happening to our starters so early, right? And it's injuries where it's really hard to put a timeline on it, Rohan, because it could always be re-aggravated with a bad step here, a bad step there. So I know Grant's been talking about how does this consistently happen with the 49ers? Like, why are we constantly having, these soft tissue injuries? My thing is, I do think the cornerback room did get better, but that's because Mosley was healthy. That's because Charvarius Ward was there as well. If they're not there, is this cornerback room that much better?
Ooh, that's tough, right? If both of them are not there, this cornerback room is definitely worse. If one of them is not there, I think you can make the argument that since you had Josh Norman out there, that this room is better because I think our backups right now, Deommodore Lenoir specifically, is better than Josh Norman was last year. And I think that both Emmanuel Mosley and Charvarius Ward will be better than what Emmanuel Mosley was last year, just building off what their seasons last year. And so to me, I think it still is better if one of them is out. But obviously, it kind of might change the scheme of things because do you trust Deommodore Lenoir to play press man coverage when he might not have that deep speed? And if so, how do you combat not giving up big plays?
Especially with Jimmy Ward not there to be your eraser,
and
right?
Jimmy Ward not there.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So to me, it's like one or two of these injuries on their own aren't a big issue. But the fact that all of these injuries have happened at the same time, Rohan, is where, at least for me, it does give me a little bit of pause because Jimmy Ward getting injured isn't as big of a blow because Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley are better at the cornerback position, so it makes the safety position that easier, right? Mm-hmm. But if Jimmy Ward's injured, Charvarius Ward's injured, Mosley's injured, now you're talking about Ambry Thomas, Deommodore Lenoir, Samuel Womack, guys like this. Is this defense going to be able to perform at the level that we expect them to? So hopefully these injuries aren't lingering injuries. Hopefully they become very conservative with these players. Just let them sit out the whole off season and they could be healthy for the regular season. But it is something to pay attention to in my eyes, Rohan, because I think, especially with this secondary, they are a big plus as far as why we believe this defense was going to be a top 5 defense this year.
I agree. Definitely agree.
Wayne Breezy, I'm going to send you the link right now, brother.
Hey, get him in. My boy Wayne to hop up on here, man.
All right. So while I'm gonna send Breezy the link right now, one thing that it seems like has been kind of like rotating type thing. Obviously, we're seeing the merry-go-round with the offensive line. I know you've said that you're not as worried about the offensive line. You do think that they'll be fine or good enough, but from reports, it does seem like Brendel isn't playing as well as we would like. He looks like a backup. He doesn't look like a starter. It seems like some of the guys along the offensive line, haven't been playing up to speed. Obviously, a guy like Burford is playing well. Aaron Banks seems to be playing well. So, yeah. But tell us a little bit about what you've seen from the offensive line, and do you think that this offensive line is going to be a problem moving forward?
Uh, it depends on what you mean. Do I think that if the offensive line can get cohesion with each other, do I think the players itself are an issue? No. But if we're talking about the inconsistency, that's also related to the cohesion. And so if you can't have your starting offensive line out there consistently, and I mean with Mike McGlinchey out there, then that's an issue, right? Because Mike McGlinchey obviously is a key part of this, and if you're rotating different right tackles, you're not going to really mesh with the entirety of the offensive line. I think that Jake Brendel will be. I mean, we saw it in the game. I thought Jake Brendel played fine on Friday. I think the center position honestly will be all right. I think the interior itself will be all right. I think they all had fairly solid games on Friday, but it's going to take some time, and it would be accelerated if the 49ers could play with all five of their offensive lines starting for a good portion of time. But we're not necessarily going to see that because McGlinchey currently is injured, and I think the 49ers are going to be as precautious as possible.
Now, do you feel like there will be changes along this offensive line of players that go in and start, not because of injuries, Rohan, but because they're outperforming? And the name that I want to ask specifically about is Jason Poe. He was somebody who struggled a lot in mini camps and things like that. But it seems like from some of the reports that I've been reading and hearing that he's been stepping up quite a bit as a guard. He hasn't obviously played center, so I don't think he's going to play over Burford or Banks. But do you think Poe could get some snaps at center if Brendel isn't playing up to par?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. Nothing has indicated to me that Poe will get any snaps at center. And with the way that, like, the 49ers had the perfect opportunity to do so right now. Daniel Brunskill's out. Nick Zakelj hasn't gotten a snap at center. You could have had Jason Poe play at center and then Zakelj be strictly a guard and maybe even elevated him up to the second team in Poe's place. But Poe, right now, in my opinion, is strictly a guard. Hasn't gotten any reps at center yet. They had the opportunity, aren't doing it right now. Maybe if they do it in the game, I'll change my mind, but haven't seen it yet. And I think the 49ers instead are intent on seeing how does Nick Zakelj play at center as potentially a projection for 2023.
And I gotta change it up a little bit, brother. Hold up, let me see. I gotta get these banners and everything. Hold up, let me do some technical. Got some technical difficulties right now.
Like
Give me a second. Give me a second. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Wayne Breezy.
What's going
in the
on,
show,
bro?
guy.
Hey, man, I was sitting there watching the draft. Listen, I'm grinding in Madden right now. Nobody got the video game, so I'm trying to get my cards up. You know what
I love it.
That's what homie is up to. Okay.
Yeah, I was grinding in Madden, and then I got the alert. I saw y'all on. I was like, let me just watch and grind at the same time, make the grind a little bit easier. And I'm like, yo, let me jump on my pause. I put Madden on pause for a minute, man.
I love it. You know, at So Real Sports Talk, you never know what's gonna happen. People are gonna be jumping on, jumping off. It's just a party over here. But Wayne, same question to you because I know you're pretty high. You're higher on the offensive line than most of the faithful.
Yeah.
Now, some of the reports that I have been hearing, especially from guys like Grant, Jack actually doesn't see as many issues, but it does seem like there's some inconsistency at least
100%.
there on the offensive line. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan is approaching this the right way as far as doing the musical chairs type thing, or should he put together just the 5 starters and have them, like Rohan said, just build that cohesion right now?
Yeah, man. I think this is when you do it, man. They're gonna have 17 days after these games to kind of like really focus in on, who's gonna be solidified and in the offensive line. So I think Kyle has to play the musical chair game. He got a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of young guys, a lot of underdeveloped guys, and he needs to get them out there. He wants to get them kind of like whipped into shape. And I heard Rohan talking about Jason Poe and about getting center snaps, and they're focusing on him learning guard right now, and I agree with Rohan like that. He's going to play guard until he learns the position, probably 100%, and then you might see him shift over to some other roles if need be. Same thing they did with Colton McKivitz, man. When they drafted him in that one position, and then they was like, "Yo, you gonna play this?" He was like, "All right," and now he's right tackle, left tackle, getting beat in practice. But so I think Kyle Shanahan, I don't know if this is the right approach, but this is Kyle Shanahan's approach. And so
right.
This is not what I would do, but this is what Kyle Shanahan is doing because he has to get these guys, he has to get a good look at them, man. He has to see, I mean, look, all right, for example, we saw what Samuel Womack did on the defensive side, and Kyle Shanahan made it clear that, he wasn't like the A1 day one starter. But then he kind of hinted to it, and then he was just like, "Yo, but we got to check the rest of the film, see what else he did." And I guess the rest of the other 40 snaps was good. So Kyle is diagnosing these players, man. He's evaluating them as much as he can be. And like I said, them 17 days that they have after that last preseason game in Houston, that's when you're going to probably see more of the solidified offensive line, the continuity in there. Because remember, Mike McGlinchey is limited, right? They're not going to give Trent Williams all these daggone snaps, even though it was good to see him on brick by brick tonight. And so, yeah, I'm not as worried, but I do agree with you guys. I do agree with Grant. There's inconsistency there, and there's going to be inconsistency because these younger guys just aren't. They're not there yet. They're not going to be there until they continue to play.
Yeah,
and
I guess
real quick, Sunil, before you go, I did like a point of Wayne's, and I wanted to make this clear too. I think that Kyle Shanahan's a very good head coach. I know a lot of people have their reservations about him, but one point that Sunil said about Kyle Shanahan is something I totally agree with. I did not like how Kyle Shanahan handled the center battle. I've been addressing the point of cohesion, trying to hammer it in because I think that that's the most important factor. 49ers have proven they can take a backup level center and they can win games. You saw it with Ben Garland. While they've obviously wanted a better level, above average level center with Alex Mack and with Weston Richburg, they've done it before. And also, I think that you could have done this a lot better. Don't switch them after every 2 series. And so it's so tough to adjust in 2 series. Have one guy start. If you want a battle, truly, have one guy start one day, have the other guy start the next day. And in my opinion, I thought they should have probably started one guy from the second week forward or from the middle of the second week forward, just start one guy throughout. But if you were going to do this back and forth, don't do it on the same day. Don't ruin what chemistry you've built so far because you want to work on what you screwed up that last series. And you can't do that if you're consistently changing. So have one guy start one day, have one guy start the next day, and keep that level of consistency because that's where you can better evaluate these players.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like Wayne said, Shanahan does have to juggle the whole health of his starters as well because Trent is a little bit in and out, dinged up. Obviously, McGlinchey is dinged up a little bit, so you don't want to overwork these guys. You already know what they bring, but they do need to work with some of these younger guys. Obviously, it's great to see a guy like Burford really come out and solidify the right guard position there. He's pancaking guys, which is great to see. It looks like Aaron Banks is holding his own as well. I am a little bit worried about the center position, to be honest, Rohan. I wish that there was a little bit more consistency there because I think that inside run is going to be very much needed for this offense to get to the level that it needs to get to, and it just doesn't seem like the consistency is there. And that could be not just on the interior offensive line. That could also be on the running backs not attacking the hole the way that they need to. It seems like guys like TDP are kind of dancing, instead of just downhill running and stuff like that. So it is going to be something to pay attention to. Wayne, before we move off we didn't get you on the first topic. How worried are you about these injuries in the secondary?
Man, I'm probably like at a 6. You know, it's these are
10
soft
being
situations.
most worried, 1
Yeah,
being
man. So that means I'm over half right now.
right.
And I heard you guys talking about Ward and Mosley. I'm more worried about Mosley. He seems to always just get a little dinged up, and these hamstring injuries. I'm more worried about them being hamstring injuries than anything else, because I feel like these guys can't really go out there and give their full potential at these particular positions with this stupid nagging hamstring injury. And so it's like the only way to like fix the hamstring injury is rest and proper rest and treatment. And so like, how long are you going to have them off? I mean, like I said, luckily we're playing the Bears week 1 and Seattle week 2. And so we're going to have to see like how it pans out. But I am at a 6 when it comes to these injuries, especially in the secondary, because after you take out Ward, after you take out Mosley, and now you got Jimmy Ward not playing. I mean, now the secondary is definitely like a C, D, like, right? Like, the talent is not there, and they're young, so they're not even fully developed. And Tavarius Moore, to me, he's just not Tavarius Moore yet. I don't think he's just in his mind. He's not that same guy yet. I'm not saying he can't become that guy, but if you watch the game, he wasn't the Tavarius Moore we saw leave pre-injury, right? And so now you got Hufanga got to go out there and be. Can he elevate his game to another level? Can George Odom elevate his game, who got an interception in today's practice, but then got beat on the next play? Can he elevate his game to another level? So the injuries are a bit of a concern for me, especially in the secondary, because it's not like that room is super big, super thick. It's not. It's thin. And then after those two guys, now we're talking Ambry, Diamador, and some young safeties. So, hey.
Yeah. I'm really hoping Dante Johnson recovers from his rib injury quickly, because I think he could be a safety and take over Jimmy Ward's position.
He could be an option, Sunil, but he still ain't that guy. Like, come on.
Well, none of them are. That's the problem. There isn't a guy. Let's be honest. So it's just about who's going to be the Band-Aid till Jimmy Ward comes back. So is it going to be Odom? Is it going to be a guy like Dante Johnson? For me, I know I talked about it on Jack's show. And people were kind of going at my throat for it. I really like Dante Johnson. Whenever he goes out there, he does what he needs to do. He's like the Brunskill of the defense for me. Yeah. So, it's somebody that you could trust, that he's going to do what he needs to do. He's not going to give you all pro level play, but he's not going to be a weakness either. So we'll see. It is something to pay attention to. But moving on, let's go to more positive conversations. We'll start with you on this one, Wayne.
Okay.
Who has been playing well so far? And let's talk about from the first preseason game as well as the joint practice from today. And we're going to have a whole topic about Trey Lance after. So other than Trey Lance.
I mean, I think you give it to the bright spot on the offensive line. I think you give it to the rookies, Spencer Burford and Aaron Banks. I think these guys have been holding it down. And I think just from the mentoring from Trent Williams, and you could have seen it if you guys got a chance to watch the Brick by Brick, you can see like how his mentorship is playing a big role with these young guys, even in Jason Poe. But I think Spencer Burford has been a bright spot offensively, as well as Danny Gray. I mean, those two guys these are rookies, and they're starting to stand out, right? No one thought Spencer Burford, 4th round pick, would even crack the starting lineup, especially on the offensive line.
One guy did. And he's sitting. He's on top. He's sitting right on top right now. He thought that might be a possibility, but
possibility of what?
You thought that Burford would be able to. You thought Burford could be a starter sooner than later.
Well, I'm just saying, the day we drafted Burford, you thought he was going to be a starter?
I mean, I didn't think he was going to be a starter necessarily at right tackle or left tackle where he played, but I thought he could compete at the guard position. I thought there were a couple of guys. I thought Womack could be a day one starter. I think he was the guy who was most confident in being a day one starter. I like Zakel more than Burford. I like Zakel more than Burford. But I liked Burford in terms of I like Zakel with the mind, and I like Burford with the traits in terms of starting capability.
Yeah. So I mean, those are my two bright spots on the offense, and then defensively, I don't know, man. I'm really high on on Kamoko Trey, man. I like that the guy seems to be all over the field. I thought he had a good preseason game. He finished with 4 tackles, 3 solos, 4 total. And then even in practice today, man, he was all over on the field. So this is a new guy coming in, adding depth to that defensive edge rush. I don't see how he gets waived, cut, released, or whatever. So I like what Teray's doing out as well out there.
What about you, Rohan? Who's been some of your bright spots? And it doesn't necessarily have to be only rookies, just guys overall that are playing well.
I think Wayne here just brings up two great names in Burford and Teray, right? Teray has kind of been that underrated guy because everyone wants to talk about Drake Jackson and his amazing traits, who had a great game, right? I mean, he's been a guy who's played well, but if we're talking overall about who's played well, I'll go with the different kind of a different look, right? Samuel Womack, a guy I just mentioned, phenomenal, right? Phenomenal.
Right.
And I don't even care that he played well in coverage because I thought he had that ability. I really care that he was able to fill in the run game in the limited snaps that he saw in the run game. He was able to make an impact there. While he might not have had a tackle, he was able to make an impact in that range. Obviously, the 2 interceptions are a huge added bonus. So I think he's been a great option. And I think Ray McLeod has been the second most consistent guy, not including Deebo Samuel, in that receiver room. He unfortunately had the fumble the other day. I did tweet that obviously that was an issue in Pittsburgh. Now, did I think that play was entirely his fault? The pass was a little high. It was very similar to George Kittle's fumble last year against Arizona, where it was a deep pass. It was a bit off target. Kittle made a good play, takes 2 steps, kind of dives on it, forward, and then that ball comes out. And so to me, overall, though, apart from that play, McLeod has been consistent. He's won on like a multitude of routes, right? He's won on the checkdowns. He's won on deep crossers. He's won on comebacks. He's won on routes over the middle. That's why I'm intrigued about Ray McLeod. I don't think he's just going to be relegated as special teams duty. I think he will see snaps with the first team offense at times and I don't think he's going to eclipse Juwan Jennings yet in terms of total yardage, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jennings continues to have a slower camp. Today was a good day, it seemed, for Juwan Jennings. I think he's starting to ramp it up a little more. But, it's nice to know that you have 4 capable receivers in case one of the top guys gets injured for sure.
Yeah, and I think Ray is going to start showing some more wide back options as well, right? Like they do like his ability in the open field, and the way they use Deebo. He's obviously not as good as Deebo, but he can still get you some yards with that. For me, it's 2 people. You obviously got to give props to Samuel Womack. I mean, he's playing so well that they went ahead and waived Denard, who was supposed to be slotted in as the starter there. So when you do that in one game, you got to give props where props are due. But for me, Wayne, I'm going to go a different route. And Rohan, I'm going to give it up to this front office and this coaching staff, because the amount of young guys that are coming out and performing is remarkable. And it's been a trend that I've been talking about for the past few years. The way this team has drafted, the way this team has developed, to constantly be just getting gems, no matter where they are in the draft. To me, I think that's just an underrated or something that's looked over so much by the faithful, because this offseason, the front office was getting a lot of flack for not going out and making big splash moves, going all in. But I guarantee you, teams looking at what the 49ers have done with their draft class the last 2, 3, 4 years, they would kill to be able to have the talent that the 49ers have been able to get. Impactful starters. And I tweeted it out today. There's 6, maybe even 7, 8 guys in the first 1 or 2 years that are going to be playing impactful roles for this team, either starters or rotational players. And then if you add third years, you're adding another 2, 3, 4 players as well. So it's remarkable. And I think, Lynch, Peters, the coaching staff, sometimes they do get a little bit of flack for the way they handle the media and just some of the moves that they've made. But hats off to them, because I think the fact that we're seeing so many young players perform is making it so that we don't have to be necessarily so worried about certain injuries that might be there.
Yeah, very well said, man. I think the organization is doing a good job, and it took us some time to kind of get settled in, and the faithful had to find ways to be patient, but they also brought us to a Super Bowl, to another NFC championship. And so I think what the picture that they were painting is if they can just remain healthy, they can get anybody to play football here, right? And I
Right.
think that's what it comes down to. So we really got a great coach and a great front office. We got, it's really like, panning itself out. And then you also got to look into the players, man. Like rookies, free agents, guys want to play here now. Like that, it wasn't like that 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's cool when these rookies be like, I want to get drafted by San Francisco. I want to play for the 49ers. I want to do this. And it's because of the coaching staff, the front office, the culture, the fact that they know they're going to have a chance. And a lot of people want to play with Trey Lance, man. I'm trying to tell you, man, Trey Lance is the truth. And so that this team is definitely on its way to, dynasty ship. Like, right? Like that's what they're looking to build. They're not trying to win one chip, two chip. They know it's hard. They're trying to continue to find ways to win, to compete and to win each and every year. And remember, you can say that about every team, but look at what the 49ers are doing, even with contract situations and how they're able to get these guys to be here, and they're paying these guys top dollar. We got like 7, 8 players top like paid, bam,
Right.
like boom. And they're going to be here for at least another 2 or 3 years. So,
and it's because they're able to draft so well, so they could fill in starter roles with guys that are on team-friendly deals, right? So if they didn't have that ability to draft well, then you're looking at maybe losing a guy like Debo or losing a guy like Kittle or things like this. So it's extremely. I think it's something that the front office doesn't get enough credit for. So I definitely wanted to shout them out. But if there's a positive side, there definitely is a negative side. We'll start with you, Rohan. Who is underperforming? Somebody that you expected to be playing better but isn't?
Daniel Brunskill. I thought it would be a center battle. Daniel Brunskill has been one of the more underwhelming players in training camp so far. And I can't speak to he hasn't been out the last couple of days because he suffered the injury, of course, and should be out for the next couple of weeks. Just solidifying that Jake Brendel will be the starter. Brendel was the better player. Brunskill had struggled in training camp. Didn't really have didn't really have a great performance overall. And while Brendel, the reason that this competition was like closer than people would have expected is because Brendel really never pulled away from the job, but he did have a good Friday. But Brunskill has been underwhelming. In a way, I thought at the beginning of camp, the 49ers wanted Daniel Brunskill to win that job, and then it shifted a couple of days into training camp after obviously the production and the performance was not there.
Yeah.
What about you, Wayne?
I wonder how much of that has to do with just the fact that, I want you to play center. I want you to play guard. Go back to center.
100% true.
Guard. Like, and it's just like, damn it, Kyle. Like, pick one. Like that's how I
right.
would be.
And it looks like he's in a position, Wayne, where if he doesn't win the center position, he's on the bench. And like, so to go from like a starter to now like being benched, I'm sure that plays on his mentality as well, right?
It does, and then it doesn't, because he knows that his role was always that guy that could come in and relief. Like he's like a relief pitcher, so I can come in for a couple of innings in relief.
Yeah, but let's be honest, Wayne, he's on a 1-year deal. He's trying to showcase himself for his next contract as well. So if you don't get a chance to play, these guys got to feed their families as well. You don't get to feed them too well off the bench,
I understand that. But like I said, he's a role guy. He's always been a role guy, and the whole purpose of being on the team is for players to be better. Like you want the best players out on the field.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying Brunskill is not like one of the best, but he was until we got better players, and so now he's being outperformed, and it is what it is. But you got to chalk it up. He's got a hamstring injury right now, so we don't even know when he's going to be back, potentially week 1, I'm thinking. And if he's not getting those reps, and Burford is getting those reps, and McKivit's getting reps at right tackle because of McGlinchey and whatever, I mean, he's just going to continue to go down the depth chart till he comes back. And you're starting to see these other guys get those reps. Like Donovan West was with the second team today, right? He was with Nate Sudfeld, and then Nick Zakiel was with Brock Purdy today, and it's because Daniel Brunskill is not there, right? And so it was cool to see Donovan West move up a little bit. So maybe he's moving up a little bit on the ladder. Maybe he's starting to get acclimated to the 49er way. But as far as players that I feel like are struggling, I'm going to go with the defensive side. Ambry Thomas is having a down camp.
Man, bro.
He's just
Hurts
having
my heart.
he's having a down camp, but he didn't play that bad in the preseason. He didn't play bad in the preseason.
It's not that he didn't play bad. It's just Kadar Holman played worse. That's how I look at it.
I mean,
I think you can say that. I think
he had the one penalty, and then underneath passes were caught. I mean, he's playing off coverage, so I don't expect any of those guys. But he didn't give up any touchdowns. He didn't give up any big plays, unless you're talking about that penalty play he got called for the legal hands or whatever, legal contact. Excuse me. That was pretty much it. I didn't, and then he had the special teams play, which was bad. Now that was bad. Like, he just totally didn't contain on the outside and let the guy go up and just put Green Bay in great field position, and potentially could have gotten Robbie Gould hurt for the season. So Ambry Thomas is my guy. I need him to find himself, figure himself out, get out of his own head, and go out there and put the pads on and play football. I feel like he's a little timid. He's a little, I don't know what it is. Something's not clicking for him, and this could be a doghouse year for him.
It seems like they're trying to work on him playing more zone, because he naturally plays press man, and it's making him look bad. I don't know why they just won't play him, but I guess it's the offseason. You're supposed to work on those things.
Exactly.
Maybe they trust him more in man already. So, but it's not making him look good. Absolutely. I'm gonna go with what Fernando said, and it's my guy Trey Sermon. It's not that he's playing terrible, but he hasn't solidified himself the way that I really wanted him to this offseason. Like, I wanted him to separate himself from the other running backs and really take that RB2 position but with the horns, and really be somebody that can take, a good 6 to 8 carries a game away from Elijah Mitchell, so that he could stay healthy throughout the season. And I don't know, he doesn't seem like, he just seems like he's part of the pack. It's not like he's elevated himself or separated himself where you could look at him and be like, wow, he's that much better than Jeff Wilson Jr. or TDP or Hasty or, George Mason. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that running back room. Who are you happy with them, or do you think this is just, we're just gonna see the workhorse Elijah Mitchell because he's the only guy that's really showing that he could explode?
I think Elijah Mitchell is a question mark, in my opinion. Not as far as being running back one, but just remaining healthy. Again, you talk about another guy that's struggling with a hamstring injury, and I don't know how severe it is. According to Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy Ward has the worst of the hamstring injuries. But yeah, Elijah Mitchell is going to be the one. I think the two is just going to be up in the air. I don't think Trey Sermon is doing as poorly as we're thinking. I mean, all right, so he averaged 1.8 yards a carry in a preseason game against, ones with not a great offensive line. And then when the 2s and the 3s came in, you saw the other guys do better. I mean, they were playing against 2s and 3s as well. So I don't know. I don't know how to really assess or evaluate Trey Sermon. I just feel like he's going to continue to get looks, and I think Kyle Shanahan loves him. I don't see him going anywhere. Because I think he's like a Kyle Shanahan guy. And we've seen that happen with Kyle Shanahan picks running backs and how they don't pan out. But I don't think Trey Sermon is that. Like, I don't know. I go off of what I know he does well. And we know he needs to get open in space, right? We know he needs to get out there, get that space, and then boom, he creates another gear. We just haven't been able to see it because the offensive line is inconsistent. You know what I'm saying? He's not a ground pound, bam, bam guy that can run like TDP. He's dancing a little bit too much, in my opinion, but that's probably what he was working on in the offseason. So when you look at this running back room, I don't think it's solidified as far as who's going to be 2-3, period. Like, I know Jeff Wilson is supposed to be 2-3, but he ain't played a game yet. Like, right? And he might not play in the preseason. I don't know. So I think it's a good problem to have. I wrote an article about it on 49ers website today. I think this is a great problem to have, right? Like, it's who is going to be the 2? No one knows. And that's cool right now. But remember, they're the 2. Like you said, you want guys that can come in and take 6 or 7 carries away from your running back and things like that. And I think Kyle Shanahan just has so many different things planned. And when you watch Trey Sermon in this game, at the beginning of the game, it looked like he was about to be fine. Then he had 2 runs for losses. Like, what do you want him to do? It's not his fault. Mike McGlinchey just missed the guy. Like I don't know what we expect any running back to do when a offensive lineman just lets a defensive player just get right by you and bam, smack you for a loss.
I guess the thing that I'm talking about, Wayne, is when Elijah Mitchell was in training camp last year, people were consistently talking about, yo, this guy is shining. This guy is showing something and all that kind of stuff. And we've talked about this before on your show. We're not seeing those articles about Trey Sermon really like separating himself, right? We're seeing that he's gotten better. He's gotten stronger. It seems like he's worked on some things. But as far as that wow factor that people were talking about with Elijah Mitchell last year as a rookie in training camp, we're not seeing that from Trey Sermon this year in training camp either. Rohan, what do you think about the running back room?
I'm more optimistic on Trey Sermon than most. I didn't like Wayne. I didn't think he had a bad game. I'm not going to say that he had a great game, right? It was 6 carries, 11 yards. But when you talk about the entirety of Trey Sermon's game, Wayne mentioned it. Two rushes were loss of yards for loss of 2 yards on the play for both rushes. And one of them was a miss on McGlinchey's part, which it could have been a different thing schematically, and we just don't see it. And then the other one was just nowhere to go, but also his indecisiveness. I think you do see his indecisiveness. And then when you don't see his indecisiveness, he works very well between the tackles. You saw it on the 6-yard run on, I think it was 2nd and 2. You saw it on the 6-yard run. He just weaves inside the tackles. And when he's not dancing, when he's not indecisive, when he just goes straight and becomes a downhill runner, I think he's good. And he's had good days in training camp where when he isn't indecisive, he's able to do what he's supposed to do. But Trey Sermon, that's the big thing. Can he be consistent with his decisions? And can he continue to run with some sense of urgency or some sense of speed? Or will Ty Davis-Price start to eclipse him on the depth chart?
That's a great question, but you say, I feel like so he's a product of the Ohio State, right? And I think part of the reason why he was underdeveloped is because he played at the Ohio State. They're not a running back team. They use their running backs out of the
only
back.
shotgun,
bro, shotgun, straight up. And we don't want to see Trey Sermon in shotgun the whole damn game. We don't mind a play or two, right? And so I think that's why you got the wow from Elijah Mitchell early, and you're still and Sermon is still developing. Honestly, it's like coming here and learning a whole new system and making sure your body's right and making sure you're good. Like, it's just a lot for him. I don't know, bro. He, out of all the running backs on Friday night, he was the worst. But they all weren't great, in my opinion.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not nobody's separating themselves quite yet. But Wayne, it looks like Rohan's back. There we go. So let's get into it. Going from another Trey to the other Trey. So Trey Lance obviously had a pretty good day today in the joint practice with the Vikings. Pretty high completion percentage, made some good throws, missed some throws. It seems like the constant theme is, he's getting better. He's progressing. He's doing some things well. He's doing some things not so well. So we'll start with you, Rohan. What do you make of the progression of Trey Lance? Where is he at as far as where you would like to see him at this part of training camp?
So when we talk about the progression of Trey Lance, I've been fairly objective about it. I've said that he's been inconsistent. That's been the epitome of Trey Lance's training camp. Whether you like it or not, that's how it's been. But the good part about this is we finally see the learning process, right? Trey Lance is finally you saw it at least in the game, right? 4 or 5, 92 yards, a touchdown. Pocket presence was there, continuing to try and throw after stepping up in the pocket. That's there instead of trying to take off. The entire package was put on display for the potential of Trey Lance. Now, can he remain accurate over a 60-minute period? Can he remain accurate when the entire install is put in rather than an install, benefiting to his standards, meaning play action, deep throws, and things like that? That's what's yet to be remained. But the optimistic part about Trey Lance's performances recently is that he's starting to take a different turn, right? Today,
Rohan, let me pause you right there because I know our man Wayne has to leave here pretty soon.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for jumping on, Wayne. Why don't you take the next few minutes, tell us what you think about Trey, because I know Rohan is with me for another few minutes.
I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Rohan. I'll just continue your sentence, like right, and you're seeing the progression of Trey Lance, basically, right? So you're seeing him struggle, be inconsistent, but today, against a different defense, you saw that dominant guy. I think it's just made to play NFL football against, opposing teams. He's just ready. He's a gamer, right? And so he just has to go out there and play football. And so I'm excited to see what Trey Lance is going to do on this season, basically because whether he has his ups and downs, he's still going to be that Trey Lance guy that can still keep his team into some type of contention for the game, because at the end of the day, guess what he is? He's a playmaker. And I think having that for Kyle Shanahan is always going to make sure, it's always going to keep his team in a game. And so when I was watching Trey Lance perform today in practice, it was just like, all right, man, this kid is seeing, he's seeing the defense. He's seeing what not to do. He's seeing where not to throw. He's throwing here. He's throwing here. And he went 11 for what? 11 for 17, 11 for 16, 11 for 17 today. But I don't think he had any interceptions, which is good, right? He's been having interceptions in practice a lot against guys that know who he is, against guys that know what type of plays he's going to be running. Like Rohan said, when things aren't necessarily catered to him, that's the Trey Lance I want to see. I want to see the Trey Lance that's going to have to sit out there and go out there and have to ad-lib off of something that breaks down. Not every offensive play is going to work to perfection from Kyle Shanahan. Like, it's just not. Some defensive coordinators are going to have the number. They're going to be like, oh, I know that play. Guess what? Boom, 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 boom. Can Trey make a play out of that? And he did get sacked 4 times today, but for some reason that offensive line isn't gelling. And you saw Trey Lance say something about Daniel Brunskill. So as much as we were talking about Daniel Brunskill, he said he can't wait till he comes back. So I'm mad at that, right? Like that's funny. But yeah, man, I think Trey Lance is just progressing and he's continuing to progress. And I think that's what you want from players, period. I don't care how young or how old they are. You want them to always strive to be better. And I think that's what Trey Lance is doing. And you can see it in his play. You can hear it in his conversation. You can hear it from his teammates. They're not just bigging him up. Like, they're literally telling you, yo, this kid is special. Like, he's something different. And we've heard that before from another team and their quarterback. Like, we've heard it multiple times. So finally, we have that special guy in our camp, and his name is Trey Lance.
And the national media is starting to turn on their narrative about Trey Lance as well, now that he's actually playing other defenses than the 49ers. That's great. Wayne, I know you jumped on. I appreciate you jumping on, my man. I know you got another show you're about to jump on. I think Rohan's about to do it too. But
yes, sir. Yeah, I'll go in a bit. I'll stick on with you till the end.
All right, sounds good. Wayne, love you, my guy.
Love you too, man. Peace out, bros.
All right. So Rohan, I mean, sorry, we didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to get Wayne in there. But tell us a little bit about, you were talking about what you're seeing as far as his growth, like as far as him attacking certain things that he wasn't necessarily last season.
Yeah, so I mean, when we talk about Trey Lance, and over the last couple of days, especially starting with the game where he showed a lot of growth, you've seen the inconsistency start to kind of fade off. He had one poor practice, a 4 of 15 practice on a very light, non-padded day. I believe that was on Sunday. But on Monday, came back, bounced back, 11 of 14 according to our guy Jack Hammer. And then today, according to reports, had 11 to 16 or 11 of 18. Those are the what I've seen. It's a good bounce back period, especially against different defenses. So you're seeing multiple performances stringed up where Trey Lance is consistently performing. And that's what I want to see, because I think Trey Lance is finally starting to take a turn, and especially against other defenses, I think you're not going to see as much testing it out rather than trying to play real football. And that's something we saw today. No interceptions. You're muted.
Thanks,
man.
There
we go.
Rookie mistake. But I think the biggest thing is understanding what we really need to see out of Trey, right? So we've been able to play very good as a team with a guy that could just manage the game well in Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy Garoppolo isn't necessarily winning you games, but he plays at a level high enough to keep you in the game and at least give you a chance with the talent around you to be able to continue to be a winner, which is why Jimmy Garoppolo won so much while he was here. I think Trey is showing us that he could be that right now. He could at least be at that level where he can manage the game. He could take what the defense is giving him and he could play a consistent game, right? Maybe not perfect, but he's going to play well enough to make sure that this team can stay competitive. Now, the thing that's beautiful, or the thing that's exciting, is we are seeing these flashes of the deep ball. We are seeing his ability to run. We are seeing these things that we feel like could help take him to the extra level, but we're not seeing it consistently enough to where we feel like he's going to be like a super dynamic top 10 quarterback next year. But if anybody thought that was going to happen right away, I think that's a little bit naive, right? He's still a very young quarterback. The style of quarterback that he played in college, he didn't throw the ball much, right? He only averaged about 16 passes per game. They were a run-heavy team. Obviously, they were not Division I. I think the fact that we're seeing progression is ideal, and we are seeing that special flashes that is why all the hoopla was for Trey Lance as well. I still think it's going to take maybe a year, 2 years before we actually see him elevate to the superstar quarterback.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's just it's not that Lance won't be handed the keys, but Shanahan has said it consistently this offseason. This team isn't going to be dependent on Lance to win them games. But like I said before, Lance now provides you the ceiling where when the games truly matter in the playoffs, he has the potential to push you over the top when need be.
And he makes the defense think about something that they didn't have to think about with other quarterbacks that we've had back there. So exciting, Rohan. Once again, man, that's the show. Anything you need to plug? I know you got a show right after this. I'll give you a couple minutes just to plug whatever you got going on this week.
Yeah, so right after this, I am on Ben Camperman, his channel at 8 o'clock. So go check out his channel. Me and Wayne will be on there too. So you get some me and Wayne action all throughout the day. Throughout this week, we're going to have a fun show tomorrow. It's me, Marco, and David Lighty of all 49ers, who is there at Minnesota. He's going to give us the training camp update, and he's been doing a hell of a job. Shout out to him. So be sure to follow him as well. But apart from that, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Name is right there on the screen. Just search it up. You'll see my channel. Be sure to hit me up with a subscription and check out the latest content.
Yep, and in the description is the link to Rohan's YouTube channel as well. So it's free. All you got to do, it takes less than 15 seconds. Click the link, let it load, click subscribe, click the notifications, all that kind of good stuff. And let's get him his channel up. If you like what you're seeing here from me, make sure that you like and subscribe, share this video. It really helps out the algorithms and whatnot. Rohan, I'm glad that we got you back on the show, my brother. We shall do it again very, very soon. And like I always say, stay safe, stay hydrated. And we'll talk again very, very soon, guys. Have a great night.
Perfect.